Happy Monday. Welcome into another edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper. And barely any time has passed since the NBA Finals, and we are already back to handicapping NBA games. Summer League, alive and well, gets going in Vegas later in the week, but we have Utah and California already underway. We have two games in the WNBA, which is rare for a Monday card. So we got some action and some futures to take a look at, Albert.
I'm excited, man. I know you said it's only been a couple weeks from the NBA Finals, but so much has already happened. So much has already changed in the NBA landscape. We know about the big injuries. We know about some of the big player movements. But excited to get into that. And always, the W is one of my favorites.
Yeah, some really compelling storylines in both the NBA offseason, also the W with the All Stars. There's definitely some ruffled feathers. Angel Reese calling out officials after yesterday's game. So there's always hoopla away from the hoops in both leagues. We'll start in the NBA, the association. We have two games tonight in summer league, and there's obviously some high profile guys playing with the Sixers, the number 3 overall pick, and Edgecombe out of Baylor. They're 5.5 point home favorites at Bet Rivers against the Thunder. And then also the Grizzlies visit the Utah Jazz, and this is in Salt Lake City. And so these are mostly about the rookies, and there's certainly some drama surrounding both teams, both home teams, because the Sixers had Edgecombe, and then also the Jazz had Ace Bailey, who we weren't sure was going to report to anywhere that drafted him. And so we have a couple lines, and I always tread lightly with summer league because a lot of it is an opportunity for the stars or the first round picks, the top lottery picks, to showcase their stuff. But sometimes they shine because of the spacing of the NBA really gives them more room to roam, and that's particularly the case with Edgecombe.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these two games tonight, the one that I'm gonna really focus on is actually the second one. So I know Ace Bailey was supposed to go three to Philly. He ended up falling to the Jazz there, but he didn't have a really good game, right? They faced off head to head in that first game, and he struggled from the field. But a lot of people were pretty excited about his energy level as well as his athleticism. But I think it's still his first game ever, against pros, and I still think that's a big kind of it takes a while for your body to react to
Sure.
the pace, but also athleticism, the speed of play, all of it. I just fully expect him to be a lot better tonight. So I'm looking at that second game. It's not an official play, Doug, but it has steam towards the Jazz. There's a lot of pros. Uh, if you were to bet Utah tonight, they, like you mentioned, they are playing at home, quote unquote home in Salt Lake City. These teams are heading out to Vegas, so some of these guys, especially younger guys, might have some other things on their minds. And I think it's easier for someone that's, at home and having to deal with that before they head off to Vegas as opposed to a team like Memphis.
So it's interesting. I like Utah a little bit too, minus the 3.5. And it really is the guys they have on their roster. So their starting lineup has guys who were literally starting in games in the NBA last year. Now they were probably perennial bench players in the NBA or reserves, but they were getting starting minutes because the Jazz were essentially tanking. So they have Sensabaugh, who can bomb threes. He was 5 of 8 in the opener on Saturday. Cody Williams out of Colorado, who's a real lanky sort of, you know, a late lottery pick that he kind of just needs more run. And then Filipowski, who got a lot of run the second half of the season this past year. So 22 points for him. And then the Grizzlies have some guys where Jalen Wells was starting for them until he got hurt. He's an excellent defender. His offense needs to come around, but that's okay. GG Jackson, who was a find a couple years ago, Cam Spencer, who's bounced around, but he's been a nice surprise. So both teams have starters from this past season. The question is, who's going to get the minutes? Are they going to, call plays for the newer guys? I'm surprised Filipowski's playing. Like I think the Jazz know what they have with him. Even Sensabaugh. I could see Cody Williams needing more to log more time, but for me, it's Utah or pass. I just think the Grizzlies they've been great at finding talent, developing it. So with all those injuries they've had the last couple of years, the Grizzlies have really sort of shined.
Yeah, one thing to piggyback off what you were saying is not only not only am I surprised certain players are playing, but we've seen this every summer, Doug, where it could be one or two guys where they're bona fide starters in this league or bona fide top seven guys for teams, but they may play that first game. And even though they're scheduled and starting that second game, they might not play a full rotation of minutes, right? They might be sitting the entire second half. We saw that with a ton of players throughout the history of summer league. So, and especially in these smaller ones, smaller tournaments in California and Utah. So I wouldn't be surprised if those folks that you mentioned get the nod tonight, but end up not playing very many minutes.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the under too, just 184. Both of these were low scoring games. I don't think it's going to be reckless basketball because I think everyone's fighting for an opportunity and you can sort of play your way into this stuff. I remember going to games every day out here a long time ago, and I was at the when Jeremy Lin schooled John Wall when Wall was fresh off being drafted number one overall. It's one of those seminal moments you just remember where you were for the summer league because it was such craziness. I was there for Durant's debut, Hashim to beat as well on a Saturday, and I was pathetic. So there's some moments where you can open eyes and really you're not just playing for your own team, but you're playing for our scouts at other teams because there's so many limited roster spots. You never know who might catch an eye. So I like Jazz and under there. Sixers Thunder. I think Edgecombe, like you said, guys are going to evolve um, and get opportunity. He just can again the more the spread out, the spacing of the NBA really lets these guys' athleticism take over where that wasn't such a luxury in college.
Yeah, and Edgecombe, if you watched him in college, he by far, jumped off the screen when he's playing on that Baylor team. Like he was by far the most athletic, the most explosive. He's taking off from the free throw line to finish layups. Like you can definitely see that type of athleticism here. And I agree with you. I think there's a lot more spacing, obviously, in the NBA, but also some of these guys, they don't make business decisions, but they're also not gonna like try to hurt someone, right? They're not gonna try to meet
Yeah.
someone at the summit because at the end of the day, it's still an exhibition game. And so they're not gonna do that to, a colleague or a friend. So you'll see some wide open layups and you'll see some wide open dunks. But when it's half court offense, the defense is gonna contest and play hard.
Really well put. I would agree with that. And you see the low totals, man. Buck 77 and a half. That's pretty low, all things considered. And we just want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe. That's the currency in our world. We've been red hot in baseball. Albert's been solid in both shows. I've been on a heater in baseball. So we're trying to keep it rolling here. And
Doug, I'll
we'll
put
get to
one
the dub.
thing. Yeah, I just want to add one thing. The
Yeah.
totals are lower because the quarters are shorter. These are 10-minute quarters, right? And so it's not a full 48-minute game. It's only 40 minutes. So the totals are a little lower than your normal NBA games, but also you get more fouls, so there's less free throw shooting. So there's yeah, there's a couple of things working towards your under.
Okay. Good stuff. So no official play. I'll probably be on them as we come back to it by the end of the show. So there's two games in the W as well. We'll get to that, but let's talk some futures in the NBA where we think the biggest domino pieces or chess pieces have fallen. We're not 100% sure. Like I still think there's a decent chance that Giannis requests a trade at some point
Oh yeah.
this offseason. I'm not convinced the Turner deal did him, but there's no real big pieces left. We got Durant moved. We've seen some other pieces like Valanciunas, we think, going to Denver in the backup role. We'll see if he wants to play overseas and whatnot. But the futures market is settling a little bit. And I know you have some thoughts. You talked about the Mavericks a week ago. Who else has caught your eye?
Yeah, so I was going through the Bet Rivers site, and there's a few divisions. I've been looking at bets in the NBA. I think those have a lot of value, and those can change. They're very volatile depending on not only player movement, coaching, everything, right? Injury moves, so things like that can help you build a portfolio, especially if you start one with long odds. The one I'm looking at is the Pacific Division, and this is my argument for the Kings. I'm not going to say they're going to win. They're 13-1 for a reason, but why do we already have Golden State and both LA teams that far ahead of them? Because at the end of the day, the Pacific Division, bet is a regular season award. And all three of those teams that I just mentioned, they're older, they're injury prone, they're more focused on the playoffs. I just don't see that, I can say the Lakers are going to end up winning the Pacific Division. We don't know that, right? We don't even know if LeBron's going to come back. Clippers, we don't even know how many games Kawhi is going to play. We know they just made a big deal today with Norm Powell and John Collins. That's a nice addition to their front court, but that's a really big piece in their backcourt that they just arguably their best player outside of Harden last season that they just shipped out, right? So I don't know if I can say Golden State and both LA teams are going to be runaway favorites in that division. I think Kings are a little alive here, especially if they're younger, especially if there's more energy there. So that's one of the teams that I kind of focus on in division bets.
Well, I mean, I could answer that. I like the 13-1. I like where your head's at. I'd rather bet the Mavericks at 12-1 than the Kings 13-1 to win their respective division. I think the Kings have Sabonis and then a bunch of guys who you kind of don't want on your team. DeRozan and some others. It's just like a random collection of people. And I didn't love their coach. I didn't dislike their interim coach. Was it Adelman? His kid. So I just think there's too many sort of teams ahead of them with star power, and the Kings don't have star power, and that was fluky. Look, they won it a couple years ago. I know there were 300-1 tickets.
Oh,
Again, just doing the Pacific.
wow.
And then by Christmas, it was like 100-1, and I knew know people betting it, and they win. They went. Mike Brown, they had De'Aaron Fox, they made a run, and it was awesome. I just don't see any of that kind of talent, and all the teams are good. Like they're not great. And to your point, there's definitely like they're flimsy. But man, I think I would need more to get involved with this
Yeah,
Kings team to win the
you're
Pacific.
right. 13 to 1 is not long enough. But I would say this is a good follow-up question, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but how many wins do you think the winner of this division is going to have? I think that's a good answer to have because I don't think it's going to be very many. It's not going to be in the 60s. I know that.
Yeah, no, it's been remarkable how little teams care about division because you win on the road. It's not hard. Teams do it every series. Yeah, sure, you prefer home field, or home court, but it's not imperative to go on a run. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be a team like the Thunder, right? These dominant one seeds, but look, how'd that work out for the Cavs? And they had injuries by the playoffs, right? And year before, I think Mitchell was banged up and missed a couple games as well. And the Pacers were the 4 seed that got to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So it's really about being healthy and kind of peaking in the second half. And I think a team like Dallas or someone like that could be one of those teams that makes a run like the Pacers. And, sometimes the gambling gods or the basketball gods could be funny and have a sense of humor and give Nico Harrison such a reward with not only Cooper Flag, but just things can bend his way. And frankly, he's made some nice moves before that, right? He made the moves to get Gafford and Lively, and the defense changed. I mean, Jason Kidd is given a sort of a steady hand there. So there's a lot to like with a lot of these teams. I do think the Rockets, as much as I'm not like the biggest Durant guy at this juncture, I do think they're going to be noticeably better. I think Durant's exactly what they needed. Like they had no go-to scorer. He can stand in the corner and play off the ball. Now I don't love the other pieces, but I really like their coach and I like the fit of Houston. So I do think the Rockets are going to be really solid. Thunder, we know are going to be good. I think people are forgetting about the T Wolves. They have gone to back-to-back conference finals in the West, and Denver's going to be better. I mean, maybe the Clippers. I mean, they had a good regular season. Just talking about teams that could be in the West, not necessarily the Pacific. Obviously, we don't know about the Warriors as you alluded to, and you know Dallas. I think will be there. So it's really like I think the Lakers' best case scenario is like the fourth seed, maybe. I mean, it's really hard to envision any of this. So I do think that Pacific Division is just going to be total train wreck. No bad team, but just like a mess, a collective mess.
Yeah. And that's why, I brought up the Kings, but I think you're absolutely right. It would have to be worth
Like
a lot more.
47 wins, like 47 or 48. I
Yeah.
don't think it's gonna be like 53 win the Pacific. I think it's gonna be just complete cannibalization.
Agreed, agreed. So the other features I wanna get into is the MVP race, right? We know the
Mm.
Eastern Conference is wide open. I think it's the Cavs conference to lose. I don't think you can get me off that. I think there's a couple other good teams, right? But nothing as good as the Cavs. But let me give you a path here. Let's say Donovan Mitchell has a 50-40-90 season, which is not unheard of. He's a great shooter and he's good at the free throw line, or let's say close to 50-40-90. But if you hit that threshold, that's really important in NBA eyes, right? and he averages 30 plus points. Remember, Darius Garland is out for a couple months. They're going to be playing really fast, just like last season. And you know they're going to get off to a hot start as well. They finished first in the East. Why is he, on Bet Rivers 28 to 1 to win the MVP odds? He's going to be the best player on the best team in the East with potentially 60 wins. I think there's some value there with Mitchell.
I think there is. The only concern, and I have PTSD with it because I had him at 100 to 1 this past season, just because I thought, well, look, I like them to have the 1 seed. They were 50 to 1 long shots to win it all. I was like, why can't? And then Atkinson did get coach of the year. So I'll say that. Um, I don't think he's looked at that way. It's kind of like the Tatum thing where he could have it. Now, Tatum's more consistent and been at that tier longer. But that was what I sensed. Just the Mitchell narrative was just never something that got steam. He was never able to catch the wave. I do think he passes the smell test. Like if he had a season like Derrick Rose did in 2010, 11, like I could see people voting for him. Where people a couple years ago were pushing DeRozan, and I was laughing. Like he would not pass the smell test. Um, but I do think it's not the worst bet. I'm just like emotionally scarred from just having him at 100 to 1 on a 1 seed. And I think your Garland point's so huge, but I think they're sort of a team that just got benefited from just, balance and all that. I
They're
just
not a
don't.
sexy
And
team.
so,
But
yeah, and
the argument is what
there's like
if
5 to 7 sexy spots.
yeah,
So yes, they may be the 1 seed, but there's also gonna be a 1 seed out west, a 2 seed in both conferences, and a 3 seed, and I think one of those teams inevitably will have a guy who's gonna have momentum from previous
yeah.
years.
Yeah, the
Now, I do
argument
not agree. I laugh at Luka every year having he was like the favorite the last couple of years. I'm like, guys, the Mavs aren't going to be like the 1 or the 2
yeah.
seed. They're not good. Now, this was before they even made a finals run, so maybe I got to stop laughing because maybe he won't. But like the Lakers, like Luka could average a triple double, but if they're a 5 seed, he's not going to get it. It just doesn't work that way.
And you mentioned, their ceiling being a 4 seed. I don't even see that unless they make some, amazing move because LeBron is still gonna be in year 23, guys. Like, how long are we gonna expect him to be an all NBA guy? And he was borderline last season. And you're
I think he's
expecting
all NBA. I think
Luca,
he's top 15.
yeah, and you're expecting Luca to play what 75 games to get to that 4 seed. Like, good luck with that.
And he had his worst season, right? In like 5 years. I mean, if he comes back thin, motivated, whatever, and Aiton and some of these other role players, like Luca could be just nasty.
He could be, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of
Again,
ifs there.
absolute ceiling, right? Absolute ceiling, because I think Reddick's a good coach. I don't overreact. I mean, look, for all intents and purposes, that series should have been 2-2 with Minnesota, right? Luke had food poisoning. He got fouled. Whatever. Let's say they lose in 7 or 6. Okay, like they're right there.
They were
It's
what they were
like
up
there's
to
OKC and then all these other. What's that?
they were what 2-1 favorites though heading into that series?
I know
Yeah,
that was nonsense.
yeah.
But Minnesota, I mean, Minnesota got a lot better last year, but Ant played better in the play. I mean, you still have to beat LeBron and Luca 4 out of 7, which is not easy. And then especially if they have a better sporting cast. And Reeves played like crud.
Did.
So if he plays well, they're going to be a tough out. Like they played OKC really well during the regular season. I would have liked to see them play OKC because I think they defended SGA well, and they posed a lot of matchups. But anyway, I just said absolute ceiling is 4. I wasn't expecting. I mean, I think they're a play-in team right now.
But see,
I really do.
that's how we, that's how as analysts in the sport, that's how we kind of change the narrative. The Lakers now are a tough out with LeBron and Luca instead of the Lakers now are legitimate contenders, right? With LeBron and Luca, and that's how we kind of change the story there. But I agree with you. I think they're a 5 to 9 seeds, 5 to 9 type team. That's if they are healthy too, and that's a big if because they have guys that are hurt all the time and guys that are out of shape. The argument for Donovan Mitchell when it comes to MVP, so I agree with you. Everything you said about he just doesn't have that positive stigma around him. But the argument is that maybe Jokic and Shea would then kind of cancel each other out because they've been what the last 5 MVPs, right? If you don't count Embiid, so maybe if they're the 1 and 2 seed and they kind of cancel each other out in the West, and we have this team that's won 65 games, and I said great efficiency, close to 54-90, I think he has to be in the running for the top three conversation, right? At that point.
So yeah, based on the odds, Jokic and SGA, let's just call them co-favorites, right? That they're a tier by themselves, and then Luca, and then Giannis at 10-1. Like I think the Bucks are going to stink. So Giannis and Wemby at 10-1. Like, you know, I mean, Wemby would get my not. Oh, I mean, gosh, Giannis is such a beast as well. But Ant, I don't think the T Wolves can be that high. Like, I just don't. They've lost some pieces, but they've added. I think Banchero's the sleeper at 35-1. I think he's the guy most like LeBron in terms of his physique. And if the team success gets there, I mean, he's the number one pick. I could see him being again because you have to think of the few outliers coming into the season, right? We've seen guys have long odds that cash, but they're not really they weren't really surprising when we thought about it more. But Westbrook, the year he had the triple double, that they were a 6 seed. That was extenuating circumstances. It was the year after Durant left and everything. 2011 Rose, that was sort of interesting, but a lot of that was because people had the decision were bad taste in people's mouth. But still, they were the 1 seed, and he had a great year. So I would say Banchero. Brunson's interesting at 28-1. He definitely has like the momentum and passes the smell test. Like if you're a voter and you don't want to be made fun of and you're human, like you could see yourself voting for Brunson and then be like, okay, I mean, he's all NBA kind of player, right? Even though he's kind of arrived. It's not his first year of trying to win people over.
And he'll have that New York
But I
City
don't think
momentum behind him, which is massive.
yeah, and I just don't think that's the standings will be there. I think it'll and then, obviously new coach, who knows? Embiid, come on, don't waste my time. Um, he won't have enough games. Cunningham is interesting. I do think the Pistons could make a big jump. I
I
really
can see
do.
that.
Curry 45-1 is not terrible. I mean, he's incredible. What about instead of your Mavs 12-1 the division, what about AD 55-1 for MVP?
If Embiid is not going to reach the minimum amount of games, I don't see AD. And honestly, as a Mavericks fan, even though it's going to hurt every time he gets out, I'd rather him be healthy by the playoffs, anyways. So, yeah.
I know. Ugh, it's so bad when he's missed. But when he played with the Lakers, he was so good. I mean, he played 76 games a couple years ago.
No. I think
I
he
mean,
he entered that season as the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year.
that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It's more of a long-term play, like the team future, like kind of like Embiid. Like I do like the Sixers team future, but maybe not to win games or whatever.
Hmm. It's
Ryan Huffman chiming in on the comment section. Luka not getting MVP after 2023-24 season, 34, 9, and 10. I don't know what he would have to do to get it. Well, it'd be team success. Like that's the issue is when Jokic is putting up similar numbers and they're a higher seed. But at some point, to Ryan's point, like the stat line is the stat line. So if he's like a 4 or 5 seed and they're separated by like 2 games, I mean that's the other thing. The Lakers were the 3 seed last year, but they could have easily been in a plan. Um, that's why I always thought it was stupid that Kobe got it the one year. Ultimately, it ended up being the one year he got it over Chris Paul, all because the Lakers finished one game above. I think it was like the Bobcats that year, whatever it is. Chris Paul was playing the New Orleans Bobcats or whatever, but he was carrying that team. And just because this team, Lakers finished one game ahead, that was kind of
the
silly.
year Luca had 34, 9, and 10. He also played, I think, like 8 or 9 less games than Jokic too. So not only the standings, but just the pure accumulation of stats of like not playing for 2 less weeks than Jokic. I think that was pretty telling. And I mean that's why Embiid won it at the end of that season, right? It was obvious that Jokic didn't want to be part of that conversation anymore. They started sitting him out the last month of the season, like 1 or 2 games a week. So that's why Embiid got all that momentum. Obviously, he deserved it. He was a monster that season. But if Jokic wanted to go for it that season, he might have had, a fifth MVP as well. So
I mean, yeah, I mean the Nuggets were the 1 seed or co 1 seed that year. I think they lost in a coin flip to something or whatever. But Okay, so let's turn the page to the W because we do have two interesting games today, and summer camp games are underway. So just people understand that the W sometimes has late morning games like midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for camps to go to games and things like that. And those games will occur before our show airs. So we will have them on the previous day's show, so things like that. So we really have three games to break down, two tonight and one tomorrow. And there's drama. There's drama in the W these days, so that always adds to it. We have the Valkyries, who are typically a covering machine, but really at home. They did not cover in Minnesota. They continue their road trip. They visit Atlanta. The Dream are 7.5 point favorites. Your over-unders trickling up 158 now. For me, I'm always tempted to play the Valkyries because they're such a covering machine and so well coached. But there are limitations to this offense, and you can score on them fairly easily if you bring your A game, so to speak. For me, it's Valkyries or pass, but no play.
I'm actually on the other side. I like the Dream today, only in the first half though. So the Dream are coming off a
Okay.
really disappointing loss. It was pretty much a coin flip ending. They lost by a point there. I think they come back and really bounce back, especially in the first half. So Dream -4 is what I see on Bet Rivers for minus 115. And if the total is going up, I think that's a correlation to the Dream, just because they have better offense there. And if Golden State can't defend, and they're a great defense, especially in the half court. But if the total is steaming up, I think I like my Dream side a little bit more. So that's gonna be an official play. I like Atlanta Dream first half -4. I think the size is gonna get to Golden State a lot.
Right. So this number did creep up overnight. It was 6.5 on the overnight at 7.5. And to your point, the over's gone up a little bit as well. Valkyries are a fun team. They're a fun team to like. They're a great story. There's a chance they missed the playoffs. I don't think we should pencil them in. I mean, obviously, they were huge long shots at the beginning of the season, and they delivered so far. A lot of basketball left. A lot of basketball left, and they got pummeled against the Lynx, who are one of the teams to beat, if not the team to beat. Compelling game, compelling handicap. And the other late game tonight, Phoenix hosting Dallas. Mercury are 6 point favorites. It was 6.5 on the overnight line, over under 164, and that's come down a little bit. Tons and tons of players missing. So for Dallas, just like these two teams just played each other, and the Wings won as double digit home dogs. But that's because these rosters were shot at the time, and we have more of that. So no Enrique Gumbawale, she missed the last game. No Dejanay Carrington as well. Maddie Seacrest out, and so is Ty Harris. That's all for Dallas. However, the Mercury, who played almost at full strength, I believe, this time they're not going to have two of their three best players with Kalea Copper and Satu Sabali out for this game. And on top of that, Lexi Held, who's a contributor, she's out as well. So this is why it's a really bizarre. So the Mercury were just double-digit favorites in Dallas, and now they're 6 point home favorites. But it's because two basically Olympians are off the roster, Copper and Sabali. So it's really just Alyssa Thomas and a bunch of randoms. And AT is more of a distributor and a good defender and rebounder. I just don't know where the offense is going to come from the Mercury. I get a little uneasy here when I kind of break it down.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many players missing. I don't know. I have an official play here, Doug, but I think it's wings or nothing, because I think that even with Alyssa Thomas there on the court, Dallas has two really good first rounders that going to be playing tonight, right? Not only Paige Buckets, but Azahia James, who I think she's coming off a game where she had like 28 or 30 points, made a ton of threes. You know that green light is going to be open for her tonight, especially with all those players out. And I think that's a good thing for Dallas because she's a good shooter. And so, maybe look into her points prop, which I think is at 13 and a half. Look into her 3 points prop, which is set at 1.5. Both are juiced to the over. I think she's going to hit that, especially if she gets her run there. But no side or no total for me. It's just really hard to handicap with basically half of both teams missing.
Yeah, I mean, look, Paige Beckers has thrived with who's ever out there because she plays within herself. She's very efficient. The game is slowing down. I think she'll be solid. Um, but yeah, I would only play the wings here because I do like the production they're getting from unknown players. So what happened with Phoenix is, first of all, they play four rookies normally, and I think the coach does a really nice job. I have Mercury futures, all that good stuff. But this is a tough ask because Alyssa Thomas is better playing when you don't run the offense through her and she fills in the gaps and offensive rebounding and things like that. But I love two props in this game. Um, Isaiah James, who's a rookie for the Wings, I like her over 13 and a half
Yep.
points. She's been off the bench, but in the last game, again, because Dallas was so depleted, she played 38 minutes and she's getting her looks or 20 shot attempts. I think this is a banger. So I really like this over 13 and a half points for James. I think she's not afraid to look. I think she's been playing really well. And a lot of these rookies are just coming out with more athleticism.
Yep.
The Aces are starting to play a rookie out of Florida State on the front line off the bench. She's been good. Sanaya Rivers with Connecticut Sun, who have a lot of issues, but Rivers' athleticism is jumping off the screen. I believe she went to NC State. So some of these players, they're finally realizing, and I've been making fun of them, saying all you need is a fast point guard to dribble around everyone. That's why Ari McDonald was like, all these teams are like doing like go get these fast, quick point guards because the defenders aren't able to stay with them. Now, Copper, who's out, but she's an elite defender. You're gonna have some of those, but for the most part, speed kills. That's why Sabrina's having struggles in the second half because they're conditioning and they're making her work. Like the speed and athleticism, like Marina Mabry, like all they just can't hang with an Ari McDonald, things like that. So you get these stud athletes like James. I'd just be betting because they can score at will. So the fact she's in the starting lineup, her usage is up, and it's not like Paige is going to be channel her inner Arike and go 35 shots because she just plays too deferential and within herself. So I love the over 13.5 points. And Sammy Whitcomb for the Mercury again. Where are the points going to come from Phoenix? Right? You have no Sabali, no Copper, and she will bomb. Now I'm like that's like a lesser play because she plays off the ball when those stars get the attention. She's free for popping threes. But I think she's a competitor and she will like offensive rebound. Like I think she'll get her look because the Wings defense isn't very good. So I think it's going to be a different sort of path to the over 12 and a half for Wickham, whereas she just plays off the ball and those studs pass it to her. I think she can have a big game being more involved with the ball movement and things like that rather than just, Ray Allen spot shooting. But I still think she gets there just from a usage standpoint.
Doug, I was thinking about this over the weekend. Do you want to hear my perfect Paige Becker's NBA comp?
Honestly, it's magic.
Oh, that's interesting. So I think it's a young Darren Williams. So she shoots a lot in the mid
Oh,
range.
I like the random pull names pull. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so
Feed me.
great in the mid range, very smooth. She has range if you want to, take walk up threes. She's really good in pick and roll, and she like young Darren Williams when he was playing with Boozer and all these guys he was playing within himself as well, within Jerry Sloan's system, and I think it's like to me, I was like, "Man, this is just exactly like how Darren used to play." And then she'll have nights where she'll go
True.
off for 25, 30 points, but that's rare, and that's not what she's asked to do. She's asked to run an offense, lead a team, and I think a young Darren Williams, when all the hype was on Chris Paul, and justifiably so because he was amazing, but Darren was also really good in his own right.
I remember that was it the '08 Redeem team where like there was talk like people weren't really sure who was better, him or Chris
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah,
like the point guard position. Like both were elite guys. So I like that. I have a buddy we talk. He thinks like Paige and Caitlin Clark are like Jordan and Magic and Bird with Angel Reese, like the three of them.
interesting.
And it's sort of like Caitlin Clark's in her own category with like more like Jordan ish and then it's Magic and Bird or Angel and Page. Like that's usually the Caitlin Clark and Angel. So that's like a little bit off, but she's very deferential, wants to get her teammates involved, but has to be told to shoot and score, which like Magic was early in his career.
I mean, that's a very interesting conversation because if you look at just the WNBA team valuations, right? There's so many reports now in the last couple of weeks, but it's basically 10x in the last few years just because of Caitlyn and Angel and all those folks. And so I'm excited because you and I have, followed the W now for basically since it was created. And so it's really cool to see the rest of the betting public and also just the non-betting fans follow a sport that has been dramatic since day one. It's not the best basketball, is what I tell my friends. It's not the best basketball.
Getting there. It's
You're not
getting
gonna
there.
get like teams closing out teams really well in the fourth quarter. but you're gonna get drama and you're gonna get, really good, conversation pieces when you watch the games.
I will say I get a little annoyed with the sex sells like lane that just gets stirs the pot of popularity, where there's the outfits and then like the comment section, whether on social media and things like that. It's not just the basketball. I like the personality selling for sure, because that's the NBA as well.
Mhm.
But it is come back to like, oh, appearance and everything in a female sport. So I'd like the hoops, because the hoops has gotten a lot better. I mean, think about it, like the way the game slows down with Paige and all, like some of them, it's pretty ridiculous. Like the logo shooting, Rachel Banham was bombing threes yesterday. She was like great in college at Minnesota with in terms of her single game scoring marks. So it's getting there. It just has to continue evolving. It's a very steep curve, but like you said, like the valuation's gone off the charts. TV networks are lining up. It's the fastest growing sort of space of sports. It used to be NASCAR, right? No, it's women's basketball, women's sports. So that's really where it's at for sure. At least the exponential growth. Um,
Are the
Adam
Liberty
Osimo,
are the Liberty in
what's that?
trouble, Doug? Are the Liberty in trouble?
Yeah, I do. I do think they're in trouble. So they missed Jonquel Jones. I mean, she was the Finals MVP. So it's like the Lakers, back in the '80s. If we're going to make those comparisons, playing without Worthy, right? Worthy was the Finals MVP one year, if I'm not mistaken. And they have their A and B, and frankly, Brianna Stewart's been awful lately. She's not been the same. So even when Sabrina's going off, but then Sabrina is not fast. So what they do is they make her play defense and put her in a bunch of pick and rolls. So in the second half, they made her play a bunch of D, and then she plays in this like little comfort zone and tries to be all flashy. And she's talented. Don't get me wrong. Like again, I would have voted her as the first guard for the All Star team. If not, then maybe the second. But she tries to do a little too much, and she's just not that good defensively. So she gives up points. And then Stewie was terrible yesterday. And so other teams that have more balance, but they're missing a key player. I mean, they've been great when they're at full strength, but I don't think they're going to win it this year. I still think Phoenix is going to win. I really
Mhm.
do. I think they're going to continue to develop their rookies as long as they don't have a big injury. I get worried anytime Copper's out again, but it's a good point because they've lost 5 of 7, 5 of 8, something like that.
5 of 7, but I bring that up because the game yesterday, you could tell they were hunting Sabrina on defense. They were trying to, that I think that's where the game has really evolved in the WNBA is like they're actually going for matchups, and that's what we've seen with the NBA now for the last decade plus with the basically the LeBron era, right? He's hunting the weakest defender, and he's gonna put that defense in a blender. And I think that's what we're seeing in the W. And I think it's really cool because you can't hide players anymore. And if you're hiding someone in the corner, like she better be ready to play a little bit of defense, or she has to be a marksman on offense, right? And so we're gonna get to that level in the WNBA where we're gonna see specialists just like 3 and D players in the NBA. And so I'm excited because I think coaches are getting better, the players are getting better, and that's from a basketball perspective. I mean, that's what I love to see.
So someone asked me because I had a ridiculous WNBA season a year ago, 113 units up, right? So this year I'm up 5, and I was like, 5.5, and it's like I just think the depth of the league, like people, like I was talking about those rookies that are super athletic, like just a lot of pieces like that are just solid, like solid players. Stewie's learning that she just can't do the stuff she would get away with 3 years ago and score at will. So he actually has like someone her size and athleticism defending her little gimmicky stuff around the hoop. And she was getting shut down by like Malonga yesterday,
Mhm.
who's a 19-year-old Bambi running around out there. And you're right, the depth is so I was actually a little apprehensive with the expansion coming with 3 cities, but now I'm not so worried. I do think that the talent is developing, and so when a team's missing a key player and other teams have deeper rosters, that now, like, the gap is much closer, unless you're the Connecticut Sun, who just suck, um, especially without Mabry, they're so bad. But they have some people that are pesky and frisky and good role players, and I think the Sky, who we'll talk about next, if they just had someone like Kennedy Carter, like last year, they'd be a playoff team
Yeah.
probably. So I just think they're I mean, Angels complaining about the officiating, but there are really good players where I think someone like Cardoso's like borderline worthless because she can only play 20 minutes a game and she takes forever to get up the court. I think it's getting to the more, let's call it track and field athletes who can run and jump and do everything that aren't just like 6'7" post players like Griner and Cardoso. Like they're getting to the point where you have to be 3 and D type players, like you were just alluding to.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good observation. So there is a game tomorrow morning. Chicago Sky, who just dropped a tough one in Minnesota, visit the nation's capital to face the Mystics. Washington, a 4.5 point home favorite here, or five. It's up to five, excuse me, 159.5. Now, the Sky have been shooting. They started Bantam at guard. They've been shooting a bunch, scoring it well. They went over their first half team total, went over their game team total. And this was because they're not playing Van Lith much. He stinks. And by the way, hey, WNBA, I'm sure none of you are watching, but can we stop the 2-on-1, 3-on-1 break, flare out for the three? Like, you're not good enough. That's like only Steph Curry should do that. Maybe the NBA to short corner. Like, don't do that. Like, you don't give up a 3-on-1 break to pass it to Haley Van Lith for an open three. Like, that's not high percentage giving up a layup. So
What if they
stupid.
miss the layup anyways, though?
Yeah, that's the thing. I always joke that I should have a website for women's basketball called misslayups.com. So this is a tough handicap because I think Angels got a point with their fouling. Like they're not shooting enough free throws, stuff like that. She needs to be cleaner around the rim and not just shoot scoop shots from her away from the, that's why they're not getting challenged. But the Mystics are interesting. So I've been over on Angels rebounds prop every game. And for like 4 straight, she's gone 15 plus in each, and it's a 13.5 prop. Now she only had 10 in her last game with the Mystics. I wonder if that's because of Kiki and even Dolson. So I'm a little apprehensive. I'm not going to play her points or rebounds prop. I lean over here. Mystics want to push the pace. So that's where I'm standing right now.
Yeah, this game is gonna be tough for me, Doug. No official play, but the Mystics do have like a huge rest advantage in this game. Chicago's been on a really weird road trip. I don't know if they even went home because they had like a week in between one of the games. They had to come
Did I?
home, which is an
Right.
extra flight, if you will. So I mean, they played in Golden State, in LA, in Minnesota last night, and they have to now travel to Washington. Whereas Washington, they've been at home for the past 4 days. They spent July 4th at home. So I think they're rested. They should be coming into this game super prepared. It's the whole rest versus rust thing, but I think I would be on the Mystics here again. No play for me, but I think if I were to bet the Mystics, it would be the full game because I would want to be on the superior team to kind of just lean in and take over for the entire game and not just the first half.
Yeah, a couple of things, and I left out the other rebounder who's like the leading rebounder is Shakira Austin for Washington. So they have three people who can crash. Well, let's take away Dolson. So it's Austin and Kiki really. Um, I agree that if you play, you play. I mean, don't be misled by the Sky almost winning in Minnesota. Minnesota was playing its fifth game in 8 days. It was playing a. That's why I was on the rebound problems. I just thought tired legs, tired shooting legs, and rebounding legs. So I actually wonder if I think Angels probably under 13 is probably a pretty good play, all things considered. But um I just don't know if Chicago, I mean, a lot of things went right for them to make a bunch of threes, and then they had 12 points in the third quarter, except for the buzzer beating bank three from near half court. So it really should have been 12. Their offense can go through ruts. I actually don't think Ariel Atkins shoots enough. Kia Nurse doesn't shoot enough too. So they have a couple players. They're not completely incompetent. They just don't have a point guard.
Yeah.
And then Angel can only do so much offensively down the post. They don't have a post with Cardoso out, and offensive threat there is. So it's really tough to generate, but the Mystics aren't that good defensively. So I'm reluctant. So you're right. It's a lean for me, but that's it. All right, that's going to do it for this show. So Albert, I have you as only one official play with the Dream first half -4, -115. Is that accurate?
Correct. Let's go Atlanta.
Okay, I'm going to go full unit on Isaiah James over 13.5 points. It's a little juicy. Someone asked me, Adam Osimo in the comment section, 14.5 and -114. I do like that as well. I'll play the 13.5 higher juice, but I think she'll get 18-ish. I'll play the regular unit, half unit on Sammy Whitcomb over 12.5 points. And I'll add that under in the Grizzlies Jazz game. So
Nice.
we will add that. I got to get to that number here. Okay, here it is, 184.5. So I think this lands in the upper 170s. So those will be my three plays. One of them, the James over, is a double unit. So it's one full unit on that one. So that's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. Again, we are Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We got Summer League growing and building. We're going to have Vegas Summer League in a few days here. in Las Vegas, and then obviously the WNBA in midseason format, I guess I should say, before their All-Star break. So that's going to do it for Albert and everyone behind the scenes who does such an awesome job. I'm Doug Kezirian. We'll see you back here tomorrow.